Hey folks, today I want to do a video on Robert M. Bauer and me. Robert M. Bauer, B-A-U-E-R, now Lieutenant Bauer with the Fairfax County Police, was then a detective sergeant with the police when I encountered him in 2018, where he took a situation where I was thinking I was helping a young, impressionable child and made it into a child um, predation endangerment issue that it never was. In my case, as I indicated, they never proved that a picture that was in my Google Drive was ever sent by me. They never proved to an account that I asked to be deactivated, and they never proved any sexual talk because there wasn't any. There was nothing. They did try to pull from another sexual talk with an actual person, and when that failed, they went for a second bite at the apple by attempting to conflate an Alex conversation with an Alex VA conversation, two different decoys, and they were successful in doing that. Again, there was no sexual content in the talk. They only had to assert as much. And so the reason I mention that is to show you how easy it is to make somebody into a liar when they're not. But you know what there is? There is actual evidence of a lie. And since the trolls and vigilantes who come on my site not only come after me and call me a liar on the simple basis of the fact that I was convicted of attempted solicitation, and these same trolls are silent when police are actually convicted of actual molestation and worse. I think it's important that we use the same court documents to look at the character of Detective Robert M. Bauer. I'm going to work backwards from when I got out of jail on September 11th, 2021, to my contacting him after 2 years or so um, in November of 2021 so that you can see our conversation and get a sense of the character of both of us as we go through our interactions here. And I show you what I was doing early on and what Detective Bauer's life was like early on. So this is my contacting of Bauer. This is out of my email. And here I had to contact him directly, even though I resisted it, because the place where they had my devices that they had taken in 2018 had to be released by the arresting officer. They could not be released by anyone else. And I didn't want to call this guy, I didn't want to get together with him. But I had to do it. I say, Detective Bauer, now that my case is over, I need you to release my property, and I list it here. Okay. Now, there was nothing found on any of these devices at all. Okay. And I give a phone number. And Bauer's response is, I will review the items to see if they're able to be released. All relevant evidence, though, will be kept until the date of appeal and civil suit statute of limitations has expired. I believe that to be 5 years from the date of sentencing. So it would have been a little less than 5 years by the time he had this. Now, I had been assured that all of these were over. But why would he be interested in keeping everything until the appeal date and any civil suit statute of limitations has expired? Why do you suppose? Well, if you haven't figured it out, he didn't want to get sued. Why would he be worried about being sued unless maybe he had done something for which he should be held accountable? My response: I have finished all my appeals. There is no compelling reason to keep my property and I risk exposing it to damage, loss, theft, neglect, or other police shenanigans. Therefore, they may be able to be released. Some are irreplaceable family pictures, and I did have a um, a little whatever it's called disc that went into my digital camera, and I had lots of pictures of my little girl and my ex-wife and stepson on there. Bauer, that is incorrect. even though I had two attorneys assure me it was correct that the statute of limitations had expired. I don't believe you are past the statute of limitations for civil litigation. Again, worried about being sued. Fairfax County Police Department has no interest in holding your property any longer than necessary. I am waiting on the response from the county attorney. I will let you know what they recommend when they get back to me. Until then, all property will remain in police property. That is the unit that deals with it. And then I get annoyed and I say, Fairfax County Police have all sorts of interests one would not expect them to have, particularly with I.C.A.C. I would appreciate hearing back as soon as you can from the Commonwealth Attorney. It's the very least you can do for destroying my career to absolutely no one's benefit. And this is where Detective Bauer crosses the line. Mr. Asian, let's not pretend we both don't know the facts of your case. Well, he'll go on to prove he didn't remember them. But just in case time has allowed you to rewrite history, let me remind you, it was you who solicited a child that you knew or believed to be, notice how they use the special language of the law that lets them get away with it, 14 years old on an adult dating site for gay men. Well, there was no child. Okay. There was no child, first of all. Okay. And I only believe the age because after 100 messages or so, he told me the age. 100 messages with an adult, which is how he represented himself, something he does not mention here. It was you who directed a 14-year-old to a direct private message containing pictures. No, I directed a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old because they told me different ages. And that to me was a classic sign of trafficking. If you've been trafficked for many years, you might not even know your age. Traffickers don't celebrate birthdays. Okay. And only after I tried everything else did I ask, demanded to speak. I didn't, only after he had tricked me. Again, this brings up such memories. It was you who demanded to speak with a child and to meet. No, he asked to meet with me as a child decoy dozens of times, and I said no. That's a fact that never made it into the record, but it's in the chats because the judge wouldn't allow it into the record. Okay. Demanded to speak with the child? Yes. When he had pretended that I thought I was talking to Zach and had texted to Zach, and he had pretended that it was Alex VA and he was acting as Alex VA. And only after his ruse, thinking he was Alex VA pretending to be somebody else, did I get angry and say, I need to speak to somebody in authority. So, yes, you trick somebody and then you blame them for getting mad at you and demanding answers. It was you who directed in private message. I said that. It was you who sent a 14-year-old picture of your stomach. No, before I knew who this person was, I sent a torso shot. He asked me in the interrogation why I did that. And I said, I never sent that to a 14-year-old. And it's true. I sent that to somebody before he had ever, this person who later identified them as 14, but who was on an adult platform, never identifying themselves. And therefore, you had assumed that the person was of age because it's an adult platform. Next claim. It was you who sent a 14-year-old picture of his erect penis. I never did that. They never proved I did that. There is a picture in this account he's referencing that I asked this account rather to be suspended because it was underage when I told him to get off the account and he did not get off the account. So, they never proved that. He asserted that it was never proved. It was you who arranged to meet up with a child after dark in a park. Well, the phone call that they had pressed for, and then later I pressed for after this ruse demanded to speak, was 2:30 in the afternoon and went to about 3:30 or 4, off and on, two phone calls. And I ended up meeting this person around 7. It wasn't after dark. It was raining, and that's why it was dark. This was in the middle of summer, July. It would not have been dark. And again, you can verify when this occurred. what he wrote in his police report was that it was something like 5 p.m. or something, and it was actually 7. And it was you who pled guilty to a violation. And no, I did not plead guilty. But do you see how they're so used to people pleading guilty and they are able to extort any kind of plea deal out of people in exchange for the threat of 100 years or something, that he just assumed that I did this. So please forgive me if I absolutely take no responsibility for destroying your career. If anyone's responsible for destroying it, it was you, and it was not for no one's benefit. It was for the benefit of every child that encounters a sex offender such as yourself. And if you conveniently forgot that you are a sex offender, I attached the link below. Your lack of remorse and self-accountability is abhorrent. That pissed me off. There's the picture. And so I wrote, Detective Bauer, wrong on all counts. Especially egregious as your lying is the part about pleading guilty. I'm innocent and pled so. Moreover, I had a sterling reputation for child advocacy before you became a cop. Unlike you, I never deliberately or inadvertently lied after trying to ruin a career. Review Bauer v. Merchant case law. Okay? And then I go in here and write some other facts. It was you who approached me, as your own testimony showed. You who impersonated legally and unethically. You who threw age out after the pictures were sent, something I've since learned is a common ICAC tactic. In fact, I have learned many things about ICAC and its dishonest little ways. Trafficking was something we both had an interest in. My mistake was thinking I could reason with a cop who had anything but public safety in mind. I will have plenty to say in the meantime, in time, excuse me. In the meantime, release my property, though I can see now why you fear doing so. Okay. And his comment to me was, what did he say after that? Um, he immediately says, wow, that's interesting. I don't have his comment here. His comment was, don't contact me ever again. If you do, I will sue you for harassment or something like that. Um, let's see. Yeah, okay, so this is the 20th. There appears to be one missing in here, but he says, suddenly he says, I spoke with them and your property will be marked for release. And, that's that on it. Um, okay, so that's about it. But I remember asking him about it, and he did threaten me. That's weird that that's not in those texts, and I don't know why it is not necessarily in there. That's very, very surprising. But I will have more in a part two where I'm going to go through Bauer v. Merchant. I don't want to go too long on this one. So you can just see what Detective Bauer did 6 years before he encountered me. And you can see already the inconsistencies at the time and our argument back and forth about the facts of the case. And you see how oily Detective Bauer is and not coming clean with basic facts of a particular case that he was supposedly heavily vested in.